everybody. Super pumped to be here today. Hello and welcome. You're listening to AM 1160 The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. This is Honest to God. And today we have three, not four, just three.
Just three. We couldn't get a fourth.
Yeah.
There's only three in the world.
My wife was supposed to be here, but my wife is currently in the first trimester of pregnancy and not feeling very well. So
that would have been fun.
It would have been fun. Yeah.
So fun.
I talked about her like 90% of the last episode. So if I don't talk too much about my wife this episode, I apologize. Sorry, babe. But today's topic is Catholic motherhood. So Ben and I are going to be telling these ladies how to be Catholic mothers.
Because we're the experts.
We are the expert. It's going to be great. But we're about to do 5 things. I think Maggie's our only person who's been on here before. You're our only veteran or returning to the show. But we have Rachel, we have Maggie, we have Sarah. As always, there is producer Ben, and may or may not be show notes Benny. You'll never know.
You'll never know.
Yeah.
He could be made up.
So we're going to do our 5 things here in a second, get to know you guys. But first, we're going to begin as we do all things with a prayer. And Sarah Tremonti found out about 45 seconds ago that she's going to lead us.
This is my specialty.
Yeah, I'm ready when you are.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, we thank you for this gift of time to glorify you and to talk about our motherhood, which is such a hard vocation, yet as I continue to live it, I'm seeing the sanctification that it is bringing. Help us to continue to say yes in our vocation and just really call upon the name of your Blessed Mother Mary. May her mantle just wrap ourselves and our families in all of the virtue that we need to reach eternal life with you. May all of the saints pray for us and intercede and bless our marriages, which are under attack as we combat this culture of death. We just pray, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
In the name of the Father,
Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And that is why I picked Sarah Tremonti.
I am terrible
Sarah,
at spontaneous
no last
prayer.
names to pray. No, the
Yeah.
Baptists have got nothing
hold
on you.
We've got
We have a visitor.
There's a knock at
visitor.
the door.
Actually not planned. Hang on. Shut up. Hey, babe. How are you doing?
We were trying to keep it a surprise.
No way. Did you know? Like, when you told me that you can't do it,
Yes.
I felt so bad.
I was supposed to be here, but I was trying to.
She was hiding.
I didn't know that it was a surprise.
Surprise.
Well, you should have told me. So
This
good
is
to
awesome.
see
You were
you.
going to be
Hi,
here.
babe. Remember me from the house? We've been married for like almost 12 years. That's
I
super
love that
exciting.
your kids have this on film, by the
Aw.
way. For the future.
That's really cute.
Right?
And we didn't get in a fight or anything last night, so that's super cool. That would be awkward if like the last thing. Yeah, big fan. Awesome. So this is my bride Angie, and you just missed prayer, but Ben, producer Ben is my wife, Angie.
We've never met before, but hello.
No, awesome. I'm really glad that you're here. All right, guys. So we are on air, and I'm trying to recover now from that was actually a big surprise. It is April 1st, as far as all of you know, here in studio. This is airing on April 1st, right?
It is.
Okay,
That's
awesome.
why we did this thing.
Did you know too that she was
I did, yeah.
That's so annoying. Okay. All right. Great.
That is
Nice.
so fun.
You go. May or may not be here. Show notes, Benny. So cool. All right. So now we have 4 ladies, 3 of which are pregnant. Get on their level. What are you doing, Sarah?
I'm not pregnant. Are you pregnant?
Yeah.
Oh, my husband will love this.
That's super exciting. Yeah.
Excellent.
But we always open by going through and doing 5 things. Maggie, you only owe us 1. Everybody else owes us 5. 5 fun facts. They have to be fun. If they're not fun enough, you have to do another one. We're gonna start with Sarah, and I'm gonna give her first fun fact, which is she is an inspiration in the world of Catholic assault vehicles. I want to get on your level in terms of the van, like the 37-passenger van with the Sacred Heart on the front, all the required bumper stickers on the back. It's
You
pretty
should see
killer.
the looks that we get when we pull up to like a restaurant. What is that license plate?
I dig it.
Just Mary and Jesus, people.
That's the best thing about working at Bosco is like only 7 vans might show up to the event, but in total, 149 people are there. They exit those vans and fill up the entire auditorium. So, yeah. But super
Hilarious.
excited to have you here. Can you give
Thank
us your
you.
fun facts?
Here we go. I married my best friend from high school. Got to put him first, you know? I know. Okay, I cannot stand touching my face or like anything else touching my face.
Okay.
Very bizarre. Like
Yeah,
even
it's weird.
baby hands, which is really sad, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Okay. I once said that I would never homeschool.
Right.
Never. Big X.
Yeah.
Never homeschool. I teach NFP, and I love like the journey of working with people getting off of contraception.
Oh, awesome.
The greatest ministry of my life. And I love organics. Bioengineered food ingredients, not a fan. Check your labels. They're everywhere. They are
Fun
everywhere.
fact and a
Yeah.
PSA from
Yes.
Sarah
Public
Tremonti.
service announcement for sure.
Did you drive here in the Catholic assault vehicle?
No, I'm in my husband's truck.
I refuse to. No, I can't even
Yeah,
see
I'm in
you
a
getting
truck.
out of the truck.
Get your picture.
Yeah,
You'll never see it again.
that's awesome. All right, cool. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you
Maggie.
for having me.
My fun fact, I'll give a different one than the one before.
It has to be. It won't count as being fun. Yeah.
Well, this is fun. I just graduated with my nurse practitioner degree,
Awesome.
and I'm going to be working with infertility and
Nice.
pediatrics. So those are going to be my main two. That the new practice, Real Health Medical,
Okay.
in Roswell. That'll be my niche.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's going to be your place.
That's good. That counts
excited.
as a fun fact. That's fun. And then, babe, I think you might have to pull the microphone, but it's up to you. You have to give 5.
Okay, this is the only, like, nobody else can say this fun fact, but I am married to the host.
No way.
Nice.
More of a moderator than a host, but I'll take it. Thanks, babe.
I have a sister who's a nun. I got kicked by a horse in Mexico right above my kneecap. And if it had been at my kneecap, I don't know what I would have done. Instead, it was just a really big bruise. I touched it.
You said really mean things about his mom.
I touched it from
Super
behind.
bizarre.
I should not have done that. It was mortifying. We were like praying the rosary or something. And I just like fell down and then quickly got back up again. This is super weird. I was on a jump rope team for like 7 or 8 years, which
Homegirl can jump rope. Yeah.
they exist. Jump rope teams do exist. And number 5, after my 4th child, I ran 2 half marathons and 1 whole marathon.
With your husband.
No.
No, I ran in the marathon. Yeah, I say it all the time. I did. I ran in the marathon,
He ran in the marathon for like
100 yards,
to give me water.
and I took your trash and I gave you, and then I went back to Waffle House where I stayed for the entire marathon. That's true.
Angie, you were running in his mind.
Exactly.
That whole
So you were running to catch up to her.
I kept pace fine for 100 yards. Yeah. Peachtree Road Race, right? Is that what it was, or was that
No, this was the Atlanta Marathon.
the Atlanta Marathon?
That's so
Right.
cool.
You like hugged me or
Yeah, I gave you some gummies, and you gave me garbage, and then I went and I ate more hash browns, which was great. I really enjoyed that marathon.
Fueled by osmosis.
Yeah,
You're one. We're married.
it was wonderful. Exactly. Right? The two will cleave and become one flesh.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Rachel.
Is that so it counts that
No, that's how it
way?
works. So I ran a marathon.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna start using that then, because Julian has way more fun facts than I do. So does that mean I can use his fun facts?
Totally.
Fine.
You're about to be a lawyer. Yeah. That's
Oh my
great.
god, that's way cooler than anything else I was gonna say. So I had my kids come up with fun facts for me in the car, and now I don't remember most of them because I'm pretty sure most of them were kind of silly. But I guess I could say that I'm about to be a lawyer then, since Julian's about to graduate.
Sure,
from
that's
law
how it
school.
works. 100%.
So I'm about to be a lawyer. I've also been to 22 countries.
Okay.
Because Julian's been to 22 countries.
Right.
I actually haven't left the country ever. But
Wait, no way.
No, I've
Because he's
never
always
left the
hearing
country.
like, when I was in Greenland and when I was in so and so.
Because he was in the Air Force and it was all through the Air Force.
Meanwhile,
And
you were where?
I was taking care of a baby
In Georgia?
in Connecticut.
Heck
at that
yeah.
time.
Connecticut almost as cool as
Is all
Greenland and
those
all those other
countries.
places.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's really expensive and cold and exactly the same.
Where else would you want to be? All right, so that's 2.
So that's 2. Number 3 then is I have 2 boys already, and I'm about to have another boy, so I only make boys. That's a fun fact.
That's awesome. Yeah.
There's a lot of dirt in my house.
That was
There's a lot
that was my mom's issue. There's 4 of us now. Yeah.
She had 4 boys?
She had 3 and then adopted 1.
Oh my gosh. So she chose to have the 4th boy?
Yeah, it was after 3 happened, then we adopted a 4th.
She
But he was
picked up
he was
additional
way
one.
older. He's the oldest now.
Oh my gosh. Wow, your mom is so brave.
She is. She's really cool.
She's
Big
great.
fan of your mom.
Yeah.
That's really
Culture
cool.
of life.
So again, my house is full of dirt and Matchbox cars, and my yard is full of footballs, and there's a soccer ball, there's a basketball, there's lots of
I love it.
Lots of fun stuff.
That's cool. All right. Was that 5? I don't know if that's 5. Is that 5?
I don't know. That was 3 or 4.
Okay,
I
whatever you
wasn't
want.
counting.
All right. You got one more then. You have
I
to.
got
I'm
one
not letting you
more?
off the hook, Rachel. Yeah, you have to give another one.
What's another fun fact? I went to college with John Henry and Andy.
That's true. Yeah.
That's
Big shout out, Southern Catholic College, Dawsonville, Georgia. It's now a Coptic convent with cloistered nuns. Yeah.
They're really nice.
Yeah, they are really nice. I like them a lot. We went up there.
Yeah, they let you walk around.
Yeah, we went up there and they made us
feed
dinner and
you.
all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. They're super cool. Like the Little Mother Superior,
Yeah.
walked out there and yeah. It became a big center for Coptic nuns after the whole Arab Spring or whatever, and the Muslim Brotherhood took control in Egypt, and so they all ran and they all landed in Dawsonville, Georgia. Super cool.
wow. I didn't even know that existed.
So, as much as I would love to talk about Coptic nuns for the next hour, we're going to focus more on the topic for today, which is Catholic motherhood. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can go. So I'm going to open it up with a question, but feel free to rabbit hole all day long, anywhere you want to go. I think what are the numbers? How many do you have, Sarah?
We have 6.
You have 6. Maggie,
2 and 1 on the way.
Angie. How many children do we have? Okay, and then Rachel.
2 and 1 on the way.
Okay, killer. So all of you have a lot of practice in the Catholic motherhood world. So the first one I want to ask, just big picture general, is what does that mean, right? So we know what motherhood means. We know what Catholic means, right? But what does it mean to be a Catholic mother? And I want to, you go wherever you want to with that. I don't have like a preset path to go down. Anybody feel free to jump in. Angie, my bride.
The only thing that popped into my head was, everybody should want their children to go to heaven. I mean, that's the point of raising children. But just to create saints, to create people that are gonna live holy lives in this life, and then, go to heaven.
All right, now, if anybody could just tell us the secret of how you make sure all your children go to heaven, that'd be great. Go.
Way to open it up, Angie.
Yeah.
I mean,
That is
hitting the nail on the head there. How do we follow up with that?
Well, we all, none of us have, older kids. And so really, John Henry and I are always talking about, what is the secret? We look at families that have older kids that are practicing their faith and are really great people. And we're like, what is the secret? And there really is no one secret ingredient, because what one family does, another family could do the same exact thing and not get the same results. So
I'll be honest. I will be honest. I think a lot of times that motherhood, Catholic motherhood, being that I'm Catholic, feels like a cross.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer I do it, I'm really seeing that God has called me into this vocation because he knows me and he's tailored his love for me, and that love is hard. It is shown a lot of times as a cross, and that we're all being called to carry it and not drag it. And I see sometimes I do both, mostly drag, but that it is a cross, and that in our Catholicity that we're being called to be obviously countercultural, right? The world tells us that being a mother is just being their friends and doing all the things.
giving them great birthday parties.
Right. Hosting these $1,000 birthday parties and just doing all the things. Yes. 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 And then I look at my life and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not doing the things.
Right.
All I feel like I'm doing is surviving and literally trying to lift the cross every day. And especially with the homeschool, I'm at home with the kids a lot. So I'm constantly being reminded, this is hard, but being sanctified is hard, right?
Well, I actually normally we start with the good things and then get to the bad things, but I'm fine digging.
Sorry.
No, I like it actually. Let's dig into that. Let's dig into the cross a little bit.
When I hear that, that is the good stuff right there. Even though it's the cross, that is what because if we want our kids to get to heaven, I think one of the main, I feel like a young mom next to you guys, but I think the biggest prayer that I have, and probably a secret ingredient to making our kids tailored for heaven, is showing them and praying for them to fall in love with the presence of the Eucharist, which is sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. And it's just so, it chokes me up because that's like what we're doing. The at least at my example right now is like being sometimes in concocted positions, falling asleep on the bedroom floor, helping my 2-year-old get to sleep or my 1-year-old get to sleep. And it's like, that's God's on that bedroom floor. Like, that's my cross. And that is, even though they're not aware of what I'm doing for them right now, they're going to know that. And they're going to, like, that prayer for them to fall in love with sacrifice is what will tailor them for heaven, I think. I don't know.
Which is hard, though, because you hear them complaining all day long about, I don't want to do that, or this is hard, or whatever. And so sometimes it's not just our example that makes them want to follow it. It's, I'm sure you guys feel the same way in terms of, like, whining and complaining and...
That's, like, part of the cross.
Yeah.
Hearing that all the time.
And then what do you say? Because I tend to be kind of sarcastic or, just deal with it, or, because I'm speaking from an older perspective where, I'm older and hopefully wiser, but to them, like, it's something that they don't want to do, or it's hard.
That makes sense to them when they're adults, though. Because that's, I don't know how many things I heard from my mother when I was growing up that I was like, I would never say that to my kids. And now I say it.
All of them.
Yeah.
All the time, but you get it, so you just kind of have to hope and pray that they get it one day too when they're adults.
I used my mother's, I brought you into this world, I'll take you out, make another one that looks just like you the other day. And I was really proud of it, actually. I was like, oh, that was so Judy Spann. Way to go, Mom. Came out. So I have a question. Like, that was beautiful and wonderful, and that's great. It was. I'm not trying to dismiss it at all. But a lot of people don't feel that way, right? When I look at the culture, I'm not criticizing any individuals, but I hear constantly, just sort of in the zeitgeist of modern American civilization, right? What a pain in the neck being a parent is, right? I hear a lot of complaints and a lot of, oh my gosh, how could you possibly want more kids? You hear that stuff all the time. Why do you feel that way? Like, why the four of you just said some very beautiful things about the cross and being down in the mud and the muck with your kids. Why do you feel that way? Because let's not pretend. There's a lot of really nice little Facebook things about motherhood, right? But most people aren't saying that. Most people are not saying, I'm open to life and I want to have a ton of these kids, even though it's really hard and it makes me really miserable in the moment. Why do you feel differently?
I don't know.
When you said we're meant to be countercultural, we're also not made for comfort. Our culture tells us to care for yourself and do that, like, but it just doesn't mean you need to pamper. Like, I think caring for yourself and pampering yourself is different. And anyway, like, I think we hear it so much. Would do whatever makes you feel good.
Right.
And motherhood isn't gonna make you feel good all the time, but it's that consistency that you just keep doing being present with where you need to be, and then your efforts will be rewarded.
She brings up a good point. So I think of selfishness, and saying yes to this vocation is drawing out my selfishness and bringing it to the front on truly how selfish I am. And I think that that's a lot of times why it's so hard, because it's a constant threat to my own selfish desires. Right. Like, I'm at home raising these little people that I love, but it's a threat on what would I really like to be doing right now? Mm-hmm. Like, what would that selfish side of me want to be doing right now? And so I just think that, honestly, that's what makes it so hard, because it's a constant no to yourself and a yes to someone and something else. Are we not answering it the way we want?
I think motherhood makes me very aware of my imperfections and my sinfulness and my limitations. And it's like, it's a vocation. So it's supposed to challenge us and help us to become better. And so for me, like, I know that this is the surest way that God is calling me to be holy. And because of that, it is fulfilling if we're letting it, but it also shows us how awful we are because we're constantly having to struggle. We're having to struggle against that selfishness, like you said.
Yeah.
And so it like I feel like moms tear themselves down constantly because we're never good enough. Or we don't feel like we're ever good enough, or we're always falling short. At least I feel like that as a mom. But that call to something greater is what it feels like, honorable and good and true.
But I hate to keep beating this.
Yeah, I
dead
want
horse,
to
but
know
I'm
what
curious.
you want.
But what is the root of you are saying this thing that is very weird and uncommon to say, right? You're talking about self-sacrifice and you're talking about all these things. And sure, all moms are called to self-sacrifice. All people, right? We are called to overcome that selfishness and our desire towards sin, our concupiscence and whatnot. Why is it that you are approaching this differently than the vast majority of the world seems to be approaching this? Because you're talking about homeschooling, you're talking about having all of these children, right? And there's a pill that can take care of all those children coming out.
Oh, yes.
There's a yellow bus that'll come by your house and take your kids for free for 5 days a week. And I'm not attacking anybody who's doing public school, but I'm just saying that mentality of, no, I'm really called to die to myself.
Yeah, somebody else can do the
Why are you
job.
doing it the hard way? You don't have to do it the hard way. There's easier ways to do it. What is it that makes you, where did that desire spark from in you? I don't know.
I now know where. Maybe not what it. Well, it's been a journey, so I can't say it's always been the same thing. But as I've done it, it's like the more you practice something, the easier it is to say yes or do it. Is love.
Okay.
Plain and simple. And I know that might sound like cliche and like hokey. Is that even?
Cheesy is wholesome and wholesome is
Yes,
good 90%
so-
of the time. I
But
keep going back
truly,
to that.
like, because it's so hard, the only thing having me continuing to say yes to what I'm being asked to do is love of God.
Okay.
Because
Great.
at the end of the day, like, my selfish desires are so strong that I don't know if I'd be able to do it for any other reason.
Okay.
That and loving my husband. And maybe, like, from a secular perspective, people could appreciate or, like, get on that understanding, because they might love their husbands. Sure. And so it is fascinating and beautiful to see what little creatures, these little beautiful creations, come from the love of the two of us.
Okay.
So it is
That's
both,
beautiful, yeah.
but I do it for God. Because, like, family doesn't understand. They don't understand
Right.
why we're open to life.
Right.
And it's like, no, it's not like I'm not, like, choosing this. Well, I am. It's a choice, but, like, it'd be easy just to cave.
Right.
And just be done and just, I'd like to, like, move on with my life to the next step. But no, like, I have to keep saying yes to what God asks.
I think what started me on this path of motherhood was just probably my own mother, because ever since just growing up, ever since I was little, like, I saw what my mom did, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she didn't homeschool us, but there were 5 of us, and she started a little bit later, but they were definitely open to life, and it was just her example. So there was something there that I wanted to emulate and that I could see was good and beautiful. And so it started in family life for me. And then just seeing other people doing the same thing, and then going to college and seeing people coming from these great families. It kept building in this strong desire, and I could just see that it was good.
Yeah, and obviously I'm not qualified to talk about Catholic motherhood, but that would be my answer in terms of why I am trying to be the man that I'm supposed to be and raise this family and be a good husband and a good father and all of these things is primarily, if I'm being honest, it's because as a younger man, I wanted to fill this hole, and I started to realize that all of these people who were so, I keep using the word weird, not as a pejorative. I mean, it is a good thing. So countercultural, who are doing this thing and embracing their vocation in a way that a lot of the world wasn't. And I saw not always happiness, right? Not fleeting happiness, but I saw deep joy and contentment. And so that was so like I wanted that so badly, and it involved me purging a lot of that selfishness and everything from myself that I'm still doing every day. I'm still selfish. I still struggle in so many ways, right? But that's what I was after. And then I, over time, realized, it's actually a lot deeper than that. I'm after that because God has put that on my heart, because God is after me and wants to focus me on him. And so, yeah. What about you, Rachel? You're being quiet. I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I was very interested in what everybody else had to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't really feel like I make a lot of decisions, or at least if I try to make decisions, I find it usually doesn't go very well.
Okay.
Because I struggle a lot with anxiety, and one of the things that I've been able to pinpoint that causes me the most anxiety is I try to control things.
Sure.
And they don't usually go the way that I want them to go.
Right.
So then it just causes me more anxiety, and I'm like, but no, I want it to be this way, but it doesn't work out. Like, my oldest was in public school from pre-K till 4th grade. And he was in public school just because it was the easiest choice at the time. Julian was away a lot on orders, and he was in school. I was working full-time. So to save us money, it was just the best choice to send him to public school. But then we moved to Athens from Cobb County, and the public schools in Athens are not very good. So it wasn't an option to put our children in public school in Athens. So I was like, okay, well, I can't homeschool them because I'm still working. So can we put them in a Catholic school? And we had just sold our house, fortunately. So we had the means at the time to put them in Catholic school.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it was like the most amazing thing ever. I was like, this is the perfect school for my kids. They're thriving. They're doing so well. The teachers here are really good. They can handle my children, who are kind of hard to handle. They have a lot of energy.
Great.
But just I've been noticing this year things just haven't felt the same.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's a good school, but Caleb started middle school this year, and middle school is just not his jam.
Right.
The workload is so much more. He has a hard time focusing. Lately, he's been having a hard time with some of the boys in his class as well. I don't really know how to describe Caleb. He's his own person, and he's kind of not really on the same level as a lot of the boys in his class. He's kind of like sensitive and emotional, and a lot of the boys aren't. So he's having a harder time fitting in this year as well too. And I've just been noticing that it's been such a struggle for all of us, like not just Caleb, not just me, but of course, since I internalize everything going on with my kids, it's been hard for Julian and I as well. Like in terms of our marriage, like we've gotten in a lot of arguments about, just how I can't control I can't manage my emotions effectively. And of course, being pregnant with all the hormones doesn't help.
Sure.
So it's just creating so many problems, and I keep trying to control it and be like, well, maybe if I try doing this, it'll be better. And I've just gotten to this point now where I'm like, when I try to control it, it doesn't go very well. So maybe I should just stop trying to control it.
Right.
Because similar to what you said, like I always swore I would never homeschool my kids, ever. But we're at this point now, especially with Julian graduating in May, and then we don't know where we're going to be shortly after he graduates. I'm at this point now where I'm like, maybe I do just need to homeschool my kids, because this public school wasn't working. Now Catholic school, which I was so sure was going to work, isn't working.
Right.
And it could work for some people, but it's just not working for Caleb.
Sure. Yeah, and the last thing I want to do is I'm not condemning anybody's decisions. I'm just curious about what has worked for you and getting into it. When we come back, we're about to break. When we come back, I really want to get into the nuts and bolts and sort of the nitty-gritty of how do you create saints. That's a tough one, right? But I'm looking forward to that. We're going to be right back. But I want to hit the ground running today and talk kind of nuts and bolts, practical stuff. What are you doing? What is working? What have you done that hasn't worked in regards to your kids and their formation? I think we got mostly young guys here. I think the oldest is, you have an 11-year-old, Rachel, right? And then how old is?
A few weeks shy of 13.
13. Okay, awesome. In my 7th grade
class.
theology class right now. Big shout out.
Just get ready for her answer to her homework assignment.
I can't wait. It should be fun.
Yeah.
She wrote it.
But we've got this sort of great age range. You might have the youngest right now. That's not currently in utero. And then you have the youngest that's in utero, babe. About 10 weeks hanging out, kicking around down there. That's great. But let's talk about this responsibility, right? There's no Catholic motherhood without Catholic children, right? So what, in terms of trying to raise saints in a culture that is so incredibly hostile to all that is good, true, and beautiful, what does that look like? What's going on? What are success stories and not success stories? What, just anybody want to open up?
You should tell about what your son said the other day, because that was totally a success story about the movie.
Oh no, what movie?
No, like he was bugging you and you were like, you were on the phone and you were like, I need to call you back. And your son said something. Goodness. And just like where that came from. Because all I can think of is like the things that are not working, and I can't think of any successes right
now. We want to share the negative stuff too, though. That's okay.
We have lots of negatives in the Tremontis. So I think these kids are picking up on way more than we give them credit for, right?
Absolutely.
And so note to self, be mindful of what you're saying, doing, watching, whatever. So as I said, I teach NFP, and I had a call come through. It was on Bluetooth in the car. We were driving home from school, and I had to tell the girl, I was like, listen, I'll have to call you back. I got off the phone. So Creed, my 8-year-old, all out of the blue was like, Mom, listen, if you need to call her back now, that's okay, because helping save a soul is more important than me watching this movie in the car.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was like, really, thank you, Auntie. It was a very proud mom moment, because so many times I feel like we're living in the negatives of what's not working. But I also see that as like a ploy of the devil to make you think that you're doing a bad job, because he sees the good that's being done. So I don't know, just maybe being like lightening up I need to do a better job at this, but lessening the pressure on yourself to like always do well, because you're doing better than you realize with just what you're saying and the choice of how you're living, the actions, right? Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's great, because once again, I want to hear success stories for sure, but also the why. Why is that successful? And there's a whole lot that goes into that you've been doing, whether you've realized it or not, that is paying off when your kid all of a sudden says stuff like that. I won't get into specifics, but...
I think that it's being open. Like, in our family, naturally, because I'm teaching NFP, I'm always talking about marriage and family and sex and, like, God's plan for married love and all of these beautiful things. They're hearing it, and we're not keeping it from them.
Right.
And so because we're not keeping it from them and like, hush, hush, I'll have this conversation later with this lady because I don't want my children to hear, it's giving them an opportunity to learn early and to showcase that they're growing and recognizing the virtues that come from those scenarios.
I think so much damage is often done because we feel like stuff is over our kids' heads, right? And I think a lot of times it's coming from a good spot where we're trying to avoid scandalizing our children or something. And I know I've talked about this on air before, but we're currently in a rental property, but before this, for a long time, we were on a working farm, and sex and death and all those things were topics that came up a lot because they're not bad or dirty or evil, and we live in this society that has manipulated these things, sex in particular, to be this bad thing, right? When there's nothing dirty about it. We're going to talk to our kids openly, not at an age-appropriate level for sure, right? But not in a way that's scandalizing or explicit, but get into the nitty-gritty of that. Absolutely. What else? Success stories? Or not success
I don't
stories.
know if I mean, my kids are so little, I don't know if
Stop it. You brag on June. You go for it.
There's some examples that I definitely like tear up, and I'm like, you just said that? Like, but I wanted to at first echo like the ordinary. We don't have to go where God's called you in life. Like you teaching NFP, we don't have to go looking for some sort of glorifying thing to do for our kids, and to show them what suffering really is. We don't have to go mortify ourselves. We just should be in the ordinary sufferings and the ordinary beautiful things of our day. That is just, motherhood, cooking dinner and having a schedule and doing our routine and doing those things and cleaning up our toys and putting our babies to bed and feeding our baby, like little baby dolls and stuff with my daughter. But, that I think is, I forget what the question was, but, just echoing that ordinariness is like right where we're supposed to be, and not putting pressure on ourselves to go finding things to really show our kids because they see it.
Right.
That makes me think of just being pregnant and being so tired, and I'm so grouchy and grumpy, and my kids are seeing it, but in it they're so excited, and they want to help. So like one day, for example, I've just like not been able to get off the couch, and one of my kids did all the dishes, and I didn't ask her. And you know, you just see your kids like wanting to do things for you, and it doesn't like, that doesn't make me a bad mom because I can't do this right now. It just like, it helps your kids to go outside of themselves, and like, because it's not just like, oh well, mom's always not feeling, it's like mom's having a baby, like this is a beautiful thing, and we want to help her in this beautiful thing. And I see my kids like stepping up in little ways, and my husband stepping up in big ways, and getting them to step up. And yeah, I guess like if you were looking at it from a secular perspective, it's like, well, gosh, you're having all these kids, you're not able to give yourself fully to all of them all the time. No, like it's just showing your kids that like they can help each other, and we can work better together, and we can take care of each other. And I've just noticed that, I mean, that's when I can do very few things well and right now, my kids are still able to grow and learn and do good things.
One like fail that turned into success for me was just the other day. June is my daughter, and she's 2.5, and usually we have a family member come over on Wednesday so that I can get some good studying done before my boards exam, and it's pretty much every Wednesday. And so my daughter was like, because I was telling her, grandmommy's coming over tomorrow, and my daughter said, is that because you have to go study? And I was like, I've never said that word. Like, mommy has to study. I've never said that to her, but I'm sure she's heard it from me saying it to Patrick or whatever. And I just like, it hurt me because I was like, oh, she knows like I don't know. It just hit me in a way that like, you know what? I'm just going to not study today at all. And we're just going to play hardcore. So we played all afternoon out in the sun, in the sandbox, sand in my hair, sand all over the place. And then, of course, the next day, though, when Grandmommy did come over, June was telling me to go upstairs to go study.
Right.
So I was like, you didn't even care. But it was just cute.
Or you ordered it. You ordered it based off
it was
the
funny.
prompts. It was really beautiful.
But it did feel like in that moment, like when she was like, oh, you have to go study, I was like, oh, I'm studying too much. I need to be more present with her. And anyway, but yeah.
To paraphrase your mother-in-law, who I work closely with, the grandmommy, I think, from that story.
No, this is actually June's great-grandmother.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. She calls her great-grandmommy.
But what she says a lot, right, what I've heard multiple times from her is that those real moments of sanctification and growing are the most mundane, boring, like you were saying,
ordinary.
Around the kitchen table. And we're always talking about we need to go to EWTN, or we need to go do this thing. We need to do these big acts of whatever to really reinforce their faith, when really it's sitting around that dirty kitchen table with schoolwork everywhere and jelly in our hair, right? That's where the saints are made, and that's what they're going to remember 5 decades from now.
I was going to say, yeah, go ahead.
What's that?
Or prayers.
Talk about that.
I mean, our kids really like to pray, and I think it's great because I didn't like to pray when I was a kid
Right.
at all. It's always been something that's been important and essential in my life. But when I was a kid, I didn't like it because it was just kind of the temperament in my household growing up was kind of like, you have to do this. So I didn't enjoy it, but it just became a regular part of my life. And then when we started to pray with our kids, because, you know, Julian and I kind of fell away from the church for a while and then came back in 2020. And that's when we started to teach our kids how to pray. And they really enjoy it now. It's great. Like, Caleb even wrote his own prayer, and he likes to tell people that he wrote his own prayer. And it's a really
That's
sweet
so cool.
prayer. You know, and Logan loves the St. Michael prayer. So, like, he'll meet someone new and be like, oh, the St. Michael prayer is my favorite prayer. And he'll just tell them. And it's really sweet. Like, I really enjoy watching my children pray. And then I love when someone asks me for a prayer request. I love to take it to my kids and be like,
Right.
like their babysitter. in Athens, her mom is really sick. So I loved that I could tell my kids, like, Miss Jenny's mom is really sick, so we need to pray for Miss Jenny. We need to pray for her mom and her family. And, like, my kids love to do that. So it's really sweet to get to see them enjoy praying and want to pray for people, which is it's really heartwarming.
Well, and prayer is one of those things that I still struggle in a big way with prayer life, right? And I always, every time I go to confession, I say, I confess sins of omission, and then I talk about prayer, and then I talk about box checking. Because I check the boxes, right? I pray before I eat. I'll pray in the morning. I pray with the kids in the car on the way to school. We do the rosary. We do, before they go to bed every night, we do all of these box checking prayers. And I've had multiple priests who have said, from a parent perspective, like, no, that's great. Like, that you're checking the boxes, and that it's awful, and you dread the rosary because you know that your kids are going to take off their clothes and they're going to just like take a Sharpie and draw eyebrows on themselves like our 5-year-old did the other day, and all of these different things. And that is so good, and it's so okay to do that. Just even if it does just feel like box checking, from their perspective, you're putting that on their soul and on their heart in a way.
And I was told discipline. Like, it's facilitating the discipline. Like, it doesn't matter what you feel. We're living in this culture.
You are not how you feel. Yes.
And our feelings don't make us move. Like, we do what we do because it's right. Mm-hmm. Or we don't do what we don't do because it's wrong.
And I'm going to botch it, but Jordan Peterson, I don't know if any of you guys know him, but he talked about how in this culture of feelings and we here know that that's not, in the end, that doesn't make us feel good. But Jordan Peterson said, he was like, that makes us a lesser demon when we are so, like, trying to help our feelings and be sensual and enjoy pleasures of life.
I see.
And it's like, when I hear that phrase, lesser demon, I'm like, I don't want to be lesser than a demon.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, to be a slave to my emotions and sensuality. Like, I want to be bigger than that. But that was just a token on that. But
you are not how you feel is
Right.
something that is a phrase that I think we need to push out there way more.
We have one kid that is always, she's almost like hyper, like, when are we going to pray the rosary? Are we going to pray the rosary? And like, we're kind of like, you know, pushing it to, you know, we're tired and we're like, we're going to go in a little bit.
Yeah.
Are we going to pray the rosary still? We haven't prayed the rosary. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, don't worry,
you.
babe. I have every intention of falling asleep on the second decade of the rosary tonight, right before we go to bed, because I
we're
pushed
going to
this
rest
up.
in the spirit
Yeah,
tonight.
but you know what I love about that is your openness to life, openness to what God wants, right? The general blanket statement of just being open to what his will is and what he wants. He gave you that specific child knowing that that child would be the way that they were to prompt you and support you in your own
you can't say,
sanctification.
Right.
I don't feel like praying
Right.
the rosary.
Correct.
So
That's my thought a
yeah.
lot of times.
Well, we had this conversation on the show not too long ago, and someone was talking about how they've struggled with their own prayer life and their own growth since they've had kids. But from my perspective, it's been the exact opposite, actually. It's been like, okay, now I have to put on this armor and be this better man because my kids deserve to have a better dad,
Bingo.
right? And you deserve to have a better husband, babe. And I've got all these people who are relying on me or relying on us. And so all of a sudden, I have to think outside of myself. And all those excuses that I would make that are totally good enough for me because, you know, I'll be fine. I make all these excuses or whatever. It's not good enough for these little people who have been entrusted with.
And they're watching. They don't know you're feeling necessarily. They know what you're doing.
Right. Right. No, you're good. So on that same path, and this might be a little darker, but I think it's worth saying, what are the major threats that you're seeing right now to your children's sanctification? And I bet I could guess 30 of them right now in the culture that we live in. But what are you seeing, and what are those threats that are actually that your kids are facing? Not that you're worried about them facing, but that you're seeing them facing day in and day out.
Peer influence.
Let's talk about it.
And, well, YouTube probably too. I mean, because Caleb's 11, so he is getting to that age now where I have to more closely monitor what he's consuming.
Right.
You know, I can't really control what he hears at school, but I mean, he has shared some things with me that he's heard at school, which are, you know, not anything that's out of the ordinary, but they're some of them are kind of borderline. So, and it's also hard because, you know, he has things that he's interested in that he wants to watch on YouTube and wants to talk about, but it's hard to kind of reel him in and make sure that it's still wholesome and healthy and it's not going to be emotionally damaging or not going to cause him to, you know, kind of stray away from the person we're trying to raise him to be. So, I mean, that's hard because you don't want to stunt their interests and you don't want to stunt their growth in that, in that perspective. You want them to still pursue their interests, but you also need to make sure that they have a good head on their shoulders.
Well, you want to make sure that they have a childhood. That's what I'm always seeing. Yeah, it's an attack on childhood specifically.
Yeah, they're only young for so long, and he's 11, so he's kind of at that cusp where he's going to start being interested in things that are not like, you know, childish anymore.
Right.
And it's hard as a mom to see that he's at that place and let him kind of go a little bit, let him explore. But then every instinct in my body, of course, is still like, no, that's your baby.
Right.
You need to hover over him. You need to protect him. So that's something I'm struggling with a lot right now, is he's at that threshold and my emotions go out of control. And it's hard for me to control my emotions and let him have that space, but still be protective of him at the same time.
Right. This is such a tough age, right? When you're trying to. Totally. What are you saying?
My worry, I'm not really worried about my daughters yet because they're little, but with my son is video games. And even in a community of people that are really not, because we don't do the internet, like, that's not really an issue yet. But yeah, video games are so sneaky because they seem so innocent and, you know, like it's just a fun thing, but too much of it is just a total waste of time. And then also, we've gone into this so much about how for boys, it is this false feeling of you can describe it so much better.
I can go off on this, right? I talk a lot about pornography and how what that is doing is taking something good and it's saying no. Instead of doing that, let's totally pervert that and have you just watch other people do this thing, right? That is in and of itself a good thing. And I think the same of video games and just
doing all these really cool things.
Yeah,
and
you are not doing these really cool things. Instead, you're pretending to do. When I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with pretending or with play or with whatever, but it is so much better to go out and dig holes in the backyard or to
go dress up in armor and get a stick and carve it into a spear and, you know, play in that way. So I am worried about that and just like, it seems so innocent when he's over at someone's house and they're like, oh, well, we just played for 20 minutes and, you know, we're not doing it at our house and we're going to stay strong on it, but I'm worried about other people and obviously like he doesn't want to be like left out, so he's going to want to do it. But the other thing I thought of, I tend to, we also don't do a ton of like shows and stuff, but we have like DVDs that they'll watch over and over and over again. And I resort to that a lot because I'm so tired. And they were watching Minions the other day and I just was like, this is so dumb. Like, this is so dumb. And like my kids are just sitting here and they could be doing something so much better with their time. And I'm not saying that like they can never watch TV and that's never appropriate, but like every day and they're just watching this kind of like mindless, silly, weird type of thing. I worry about that. But in the grand scheme of things, like the things that I could be worried about could be a lot worse. But that is what I'm worried about with our
Well, it's so interesting, too, with anything media, right? Anything digital, that when they'll do it and then they act like little heroin addicts or whatever. And they just want to keep on doing it forever and ever, amen, right? But then, like yesterday in our backyard, our kids went out into the old gross dog glue that's been rained on 100 times and they turned it into like an Indian camp and they had a little fire out front. They had a real fire and all it was.
They continued it this morning.
Oh, did they? Cool. And they come back and there's so much joy and happiness there that does not come from, well, we just spent 3 hours staring at, you know, digital artwork of, you know, little yellow guys jumping around saying crass things to each other.
Well, even like from a health perspective, like the screen time, for sure, it's like it's causing addiction, and yeah, it's the things that are stimulate dopamine and all that. It's like it's And then when you compare that to the developmental skills that
Right.
they're gaining from making something with their hands and all of that, it's so pivotal.
Right.
That people are,
Doing a really bad job at something that is real and outside and whatever is so much better than doing a really good job at some video game something, right? Failing in real things is better than succeeding in fake things, I think.
We're made to
hands down.
recreate.
Right. And especially at this point in their when they've got these little brains that are so plastic and are growing and everything. I can get into the neurochemistry of it in a big way. We talk about that a lot in my theology of the body class. Awesome. But no, it's a challenge.
I would say, especially having an older girl, the biggest challenge right now is comparison. So comparing herself to what she doesn't have, and not necessarily from like a screen or social media or anything like that, not that she has accounts, but more from like the outside world and what other families are doing based on what she's seen and what she's not doing, because our family unit is the way that it is. So naturally, a family that has one child, they are able to do things that we are not able to do as a family. So that threat of seeing what we've been called to do as at times could be something negative maybe to her, because it's preventing her from certain experiences that otherwise she would maybe be able to do.
Yeah, the comparison thing is something that I hear all the time. Once every couple of days, I have I don't care at all about what so-and-so is doing. I don't care at all. I'm not worried about it. Your soul is my priority, so I hate it for you, but no, we're never doing that ever, no matter what. So
Right.
Yeah.
Is that how you talk to your kids? That's awesome.
I think so. Is that about accurate?
That could be a whole
Yes,
nother
and
show.
it's so great because I am the complete opposite. And so if I did not have him to balance me out, I don't know.
We
what happened.
complement each other, I think. You keep
No,
me from
really,
going
really
off
well.
too much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll temper it down a little bit, but like, things that I would kind of be like, well, maybe he could have a video game. You're like, absolutely not. Like,
I think I said to Henry, I would rather drown you in the bathtub than give you that.
but like,
It's not a recommendation.
and it
but-
doesn't mean that he'll never play a video game either. Like, that we think that it's just will ruin his
he's
entire
older.
life. Like, he's played video games before, but just we're not going to do that at our house.
And then he's like, what?
When did he play it? No. All right, so we are running out of time pretty quickly. I'm amazed at how quickly this has gone. But instead of doing popsicle sticks, instead of doing loaded questions, Junior, I would love to go down the line and ask you if you could give one piece of advice to a new mom. That baby was born yesterday and she comes to you, because from my perspective, the best advice I've ever gotten has been from going up and bothering people and saying, hey, I see your grown kids and they're wonderful. How can I be a parent?
What
like
did you do? What did you do?
And I've got a long list. That's the great thing about being at Bosco. I've got all these great people that I've cornered and said, like, I need you to write a book. Like, I want my kids to be like your kids. I see them grown. I see them established, everything.
Marry them into their family.
I
saw that
that's
episode
my plan.
too. That's my plan as well. It's a whole nother show.
Yeah. Yeah. But if you had to give one piece of advice to a new mom right now, what would it be? Ben, do you want to start? I'm just kidding. Let's start over here with Sarah and then we'll go down.
Okay, one practical piece. Don't forget that the onesie, the reason that the little shoulder piece is crisscrossed is so you can slide it down over the shoulders. It took me 5 children to learn that.
You don't have to pull the poop
Correct.
stained
You just
onesie up
slide
over
it
their
down.
head.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Should maybe be in the information that you get in the hospital.
Sure.
Okay. To say that you made a mistake. So humble yourself and actually admit to your children, even when they're little, Mom was wrong. I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Totally.
Huge.
This is a piece of advice from a mom, much older mom, but she has 9 kids, all adults now. But she said her main prayer, and it's now one of my prayers every day. I try to remember every day. Is, I hope my kid lives long enough on this earth to fall madly and deeply in love with you.
That's awesome. That's great.
I hate questions like this.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, the only thing that comes to mind for me is just being there for your kids as much as you possibly can. Even if you work, even if you don't homeschool, they will remember you being there.
Even when they expressly tell you they don't want you to be there sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you do stay home, they'll realize later, like I did, what a huge sacrifice it was for you to stay home. And yeah, just to have, I don't think we realize how much our kids need us, and how they just having us there, like we just think it's such a mundane thing because I'm a stay-at-home mom, so of course I'm there, but how good it is for them.
Awesome.
Just to have us there.
I don't know if I have just one, but I'll make it quick. I would say, just from what I've learned from childhood and what I've learned from being a mom, probably the biggest ones are there's no such thing as too much love. They may not realize it when they're this young, but it's important that they know that they're seen and that their emotions are valid. So essentially, even if they're upset about something that obviously as an adult won't make sense to us, why they're upset, it makes sense to them. So it's important to acknowledge that their feelings are valid, just so that they can start to develop ways to process their emotions. But the biggest piece of advice is probably just, you're not alone, I would say.
That's awesome. Yeah, guys, this is great. I could do this all day. Unfortunately, we have to keep it down to time for radio. But thank you all for being here, ladies. This has been awesome. You're listening to AM 1160 The Quest. This is Honest to God. Producer Ben.
Signing off.
Over and out.